Hey, this is Tony Verelli. It's been a while since I uploaded to my channel, but I got a new announcement I wanted to get out there today. Today I'm going to talk about a new site I just launched called 3dlocksport.com. So if you've seen any of my previous videos, you've noticed that I have designed and 3D modeled items for the Locksport community. And a lot of the comments I got on those were, hey, those are awesome. I would totally buy one. Either because someone doesn't want to print it or they don't have a printer, which is quite common. So I wanted to try something new and try to launch a new company called 3D Locksport, where we would design custom-made 3D models for the Locksport community and sell them. Anyone who does 3D modeling knows that there's this, I'll call it a plague of people who go out to sites like Thingiverse and download other people's models and turn around and sell them. And that's just absolutely unacceptable. People spend a lot of time coming up with these models, tweaking them, making them perfect, and then you have these people who go out and download them and profit off of them. And even worse is Thingiverse specifically has licensing terms underneath Creative Commons that doesn't allow this kind of thing to happen. I've been lucky enough so far to not have this happen to any of my designs that I know of. But I know some other people who have had things like pinning trays or pick handles or things along those lines that they've uploaded that people are turning around and reselling as their own. Sometimes by making slight modifications and sometimes by doing nothing at all, just printing them and selling them for profit, which I'm completely and totally against. So everything on 3dlocksport.com is 100% modeled by me, and it's a custom design that I've made. So what I want to do here is kind of go over the products that I have available on that site, giving you an idea of what they are. And we can also run over kind of the prices that they're currently on the website. The prices could change in the future, but these are just the current prices so that you know what they are while you're watching the video. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here is pretty much, I guess I'll call it the flagship product of the site. And that is our large lockpick holder. So this is designed for, I guess, people like me. If you've been in Locksport for a while, you've probably fallen underneath the spell that a lot of us have where you're trying to find the best pick. And you collect a lot of picks over time. And to be honest, and if you're honest with yourself, you probably realize you almost become a collector in this area, where every time a new fancy pick comes out, oh, you gotta have that one. This one does something different. So if you're anything like me, you have cases and cases of picks, or maybe you've found a case that holds everything you want. However, if you pick a lot and you have a dedicated station where you pick, maybe your lock lab or whatever you want to call it, it's nice to have quick access to those picks. So I designed this for someone like me who has an extreme amount of picks, and I can't just rely on my daily drivers. These are for holding all sorts of picks, for the ones I might need. And I might only ever use once in a while, but I still want them in my arm's length to grab while doing a picking. So that's what this is. So this was designed to work with a large variety of brands of picks. I have a lot of different brands. So the holes that were up here are designed specifically to hold a ton of brands. There's only a few they won't hold. The holes up front will not hold the large, like Rytan handles. Those will not work. Or any of Sparrow's large size pick handles, like the Octo Rake, the Sandman, or any of the Reflection Bogota series. But we have a solution for that as well. So you'll see I have all these holes up here, and there's specifically 30 holes up front for your standard size lock picks. And then we have these 4 slots on the back. And these are meant for holding larger size pick handles. And I'll kind of show you how these all work. So I have a lot of Peterson picks. So here's a standard Peterson gem. And if I just drop that in, you can see it fits perfectly. Now, this will only fit, each hole will only fit one Peterson pick. When I initially designed this, I have a lot of Petersons, and I made this specifically around the size of what a Peterson lock is. So this will only hold one pick per hole. And again, I'm not the kind of guy who wants to bunch up a bunch of picks. The whole point of a pick stand is to keep them organized, easily available to grab, and at a glance, you can figure out which one you want. So these are all meant to hold those. But also, if you're like me, you probably have a lot of Sparrow's picks. And Sparrow's picks fit perfectly in these holes as well. However, with Sparrows, you could technically double these up because the handles are smaller, so you could fit more than one pick in each hole. Another manufacturer that I am a huge fan of, and Andy does amazing things with this, is Law Lock Tools. Here's the Law Lock Tools Nessie right here. And they have a wider handle, and it's at an angle, but still, these fit in these holes perfectly. So if you had a whole set of Law Lock Tools, they'll fit in these just as well as the rest of them. And there's another slew, Southward, Multi-Pick, Tool Brand. There's all kinds of lock picks that will fit in this. Pretty much the only ones that I know of that aren't going to fit in these holes are either custom designed handles that are larger. So if you have guys making you awesome, gorgeous pick handles, they probably won't fit in this. If you have the larger right-hand handles, the small right-hand handles will fit, but the larger right hands will not fit. And then, like I said, the big old Sparrows. But again, for the Sparrows and the large right hands, they will fit in these back slots. So let me see if I can find some of my larger Sparrows picks here. Give me a second. So I have quite a collection of these large Sparrow picks, as you can see here. So when I'm talking large handles, I'm talking things like the Octo Rake or the Sandman, things like that. So obviously these aren't going to fit in these little holes here, but they do fit perfectly in these slots in the back. So you can fit quite a few. I think you can fit like 8. If you really wanted to get crazy and shove a whole bunch of these in one slot, you could. Or you can spread them out and keep them organized. So for example, I have like the Rooks, the Knights, the King, and the Queens. Let's see here, get these all out of here. Those, for me personally, they're very, very, very rarely used. So I can keep them all together, and I'm comfortable with that because I'm not reaching for them at all times. But I can take all 4 of these picks and just set them right down here. And they're available to me when I want them, but they're also, you know, in the back, and they're not something I grab for regularly. Let's say you fill up the front 30, you can fit standard size pick handles back here. You could fit a couple. You should at least be able to get 2 side by side in the back. So if you don't have large pick handles, you still have use for these slots in the back. Now in the front, there's this large tray. This large tray can be used for a lot of things. If you look at the photo on the website, you'll see that one use for it is like a distatainer pick. You can hold that. If you have jiggler keys, like these are the Sparrow's coughing keys right here, those can fit in there as well. You can use it for a lot of different things. Sorry, I'm trying to do this backwards, looking around it with the camera. You could also throw all your tension wrenches up here. So if you're the kind of guy who has a ton of tension wrenches and always wants a whole bunch of options for tension wrenches, you could do that. However, for tension wrenches, I specifically designed into the sides of these 4 slots along the sides. And these are great for holding your tension tools. So whether you use bottom of the keyway or top of the keyway tension, it'll work for any. And you can hold quite a few in each of the slots, but just for example, I'll just throw a couple bottom of the keyways right there. You can see those fit in there perfectly. On the other side, if I just take just a few, I don't need to, I mean, they hold quite a few of them, but if you just put some top of the keyways, you can put top of the keyways in there. And then even if you have some awkward tension tools, for example, here's the goat wrench that by Locknube that Sparrow sells for doing tubular keys. It'll fit in there perfectly, and it'll just be held on the side for you. So your tension wrenches are out of the way and not in front of your lock picks, but they're available at a moment to grab and pick your locks with. So this is the large lockpick stand, and again, it's available in a ton of colors. If you go to the website, you can see all the colors it's available in. And this sells for $49.99. It is quite a bit of filament, and it does take about 26 hours to print this, but it is an awesome tool to have if you have a ton of lockpicks. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like all the way around, that is what it is. So my wife saw this when I first printed this, and she made a comment. She goes, "There's no way everyone has that many lockpicks or wants this many lockpicks in front of them." And I kind of disagreed with her. I'm like, yes. And I realized I was being biased. So she thought I should create a smaller one of those. So I have to give all credit to my wife for this next product. The next product I have is the small lockpick stand. As far as the hole size, they're exactly the same. This only holds 11 picks. It doesn't have a tray, and it doesn't have the large slots in the back, but this is perfect for your daily drivers. So like here's a gem in 19 thou. It holds a lot, but again, this will hold any picks this will hold. So you can put your sparrows in there. Again, a sparrows could be doubled up or they can go side by side. Law lock tools fits in there perfect. This will hold almost all your standard picks. It just won't hold the large Rytans, and it obviously won't fit large handled sparrows. But like the large on the sides, it does also have one slot here for tension wrenches and a slot here for tension wrenches. So this is for your daily drivers that you just want quick access to at all times in your lock lab. It's obviously quite a bit smaller and it's quite a bit cheaper. So the large is $49.99. This thing right here is only $19.99. And the color, if you're wondering what this is called Galaxy Black. It's by Prusa. It's part of their Prusament line. It's a gorgeous color. It's black and it has all these silver sparkles in it. It's really a really cool look for it. So again, this is the small lockpick stand. Holds 11 picks and has the two sides for the tension wrenches, and it's $19.99. So that is the lockpick stands. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to show this. If you have any specialty tools, the nice thing about these being round is, for example, here are two of Sparrow's bypass tools for the American lock and for the Avis, and these fit in there perfectly as well. So random tools like that also fit in here perfectly. They're a perfect fit inside the small round holes in here. So they hold all kinds of tools that you might have that you might want to put inside here. So the next product I'm going to go over is one that you've seen before on my channel if you've ever seen my videos before. This is just a rebuild, a reimagining, and a redesign of that. And that is the gutting station. Now this gutting station was designed originally specifically to hold the mini pitting mats by Sparrows. So if you don't know what those are these right here. So if you've ever bought the repitting kit or reload kit, these come in this. You can buy them individually as well. But they're really nice, convenient little mats. And this was made for a need I had. Every time I'd gut a lock, I'd have to go find my mats. I'd have to find my followers. I'd have to find my circlip remover, all kinds of different stuff I had to get together, tweezers, all that stuff, just to gut a lock. And I was, I'm probably not the most organized person in the world. So some of you might think this is not a problem for you. You're organized, great. Then this may not be for you. But if you're like me and you have so many tools, you have to dig through everything, this is fantastic. So let's look this over. Up front here, we have this little tray area, which has a lip on all the sides. Excuse me. And this is meant to hold your pitting mats. So your pitting mats just slide right in here like this. And those lips on the sides stop them from falling out. And it's so tight in here that it makes it act like one very large mat. One big mat you could use in there. Now maybe you prefer this mat over this mat. It doesn't matter because you have the ability to put them in. You can put them in any configuration you want. Across the back, we have a place for your followers. Again, I'm using the Sparrows followers because that's what I own. But followers are a pretty common size for most locks. There are some specialty ones out there, but these are probably for your 4 most common followers. And these fit your followers perfectly. So one goes there, one goes right there, another here, and the last one is for smaller locks like American lock, padlocks. Fits in there perfectly. This next slot right here is for something very specific to me. I'll be honest, when I initially designed this, I was designing it for myself. So this slot was made specifically for something I already owned, which is this. This is a little container that I had one of those clear build your own padlock kits from a long time ago. And like the pins and the springs were all inside here. And I built it to hold this perfectly. And what I store in this now are my shims. So all my shims are in here. However, I realize not everyone has this. So the nice thing about the height of this back and the size of this is you can fit shims in this that you own without having to have any specialized container. So here's a whole big old wad of shims that I can just drop in there and they fit perfectly and they still stick out above the top so you can easily reach in and just grab yourself a shim out. So this is for holding your shims while you're gutting a lock. Next to that, there's 2 places for tweezers. Now when I got locks, I use 2 different kinds of tweezers. This is a tweezer I have that came out of a large pick set I think I got for like 10 bucks off Amazon or Banggood, I can't remember. And this is a set of right angle tweezers. And this is great for reaching down into the lock and getting stubborn springs that are stuck down or bent springs that are stuck in the lock you can't get out. And that's why I have this on here. And that's what this slot on the back is made for, is to hold this pair of tweezers like that. The one in the front is for holding my pinning tweezers, and the tweezers I have are from Sparrows. Sparrows makes really nice pinning tweezers. And these tweezers go in the grabby side down, and the nice thing about that is when you press them in and let go, they expand out. So they hold themselves in place because they're already under spring tension from the tweezer themselves, and they stay perfectly right there. This last part is just an auxiliary slot, I guess. It's not meant for anything specific, but if you're picking a lock and you're ready to gut and you might want to have a lockpick handy, you can set your lockpick in there, you can put a key in there, you can use it for anything you want. We had the extra space, so I just put it there for anything you may need. And the last thing about this is when I originally designed this, the only tool I had for removing clips was a pickle fork, which if you've ever had, they come in quick set lock rekeying kits. They're about this long and they have like a fork end. And the back of this had a slit in it for the fork, but the fork stuck out about this far past it. So if you picked it up and tipped it like this, the fork would fall out. Well, since then, LockNoob has released one of the greatest things I've ever think he's created, which is the gut wrench. And Sparrows sells that. And this is the gut wrench. And this is for removing clips off the back of locks. It actually has a couple holes to hold cylinders as well while you're gutting the locks. But this is one of the best clip removal tools I've ever seen, and it's super affordable. So I modified this to have a slot on the back that specifically fits the gut wrench. And it fits in there perfectly, and I put this little half moon cutout, so while I'm gutting a lock, and I would be looking at it from this direction, I can just reach over everything, find that half moon, put my fingers on it, and pull up to get this out. And same thing for putting it back. You can just ride it along the edge and drop it right in. So this fits the gut wrench in the back of it absolutely perfectly. So when you have this thing fully assembled now, this is it. This is your gutting station. You're set to go. So I have this off to the side in my lock lab. I pick my lock. I have everything ready to go. All I have to do instead of gathering all my tools is reach over, bring this one thing over, and I'm set to go. All my pinning mats are right here. My followers, my shims, my tweezers, the clip removal, it's all in one nice convenient package that stays together. Nothing's gonna fall out of this unless you go crazy and tip it upside down. Otherwise, everything fits absolutely perfect inside this, and it's a super nice convenience to have when gutting a lock. Now, the other thing I got comments on about this was, well, how big is it? It looks kind of big. I don't need two pinning mats. I only need just one place for all my pins, you know? I don't use both of these mats. So what I decided to make was its little brother. Now this one sells, I believe, for $19.99. Let me just verify that for you before I give you false information. Yep, this pinning mat station is $19.99. And this is its little brother. This is the small lock gutting station for Sparrow's Mini Mat. It is nearly identical. It holds all the same tools. It just doesn't have a auxiliary slot on it, which again, it was put there because it had the space. The mini mat actually sells, or excuse me, the mini gutting station sells for $14.99. So it's a little cheaper. It's got a little less plastic and takes a little less time to print. However, it's just as powerful. So you pick whatever mat is your favorite from Sparrows and you slide it down in and it fits in there perfectly. All the followers, exactly the same, fit in the holes. It's a place for shims. You can't fit as many shims, but you can still get a good number of shims down, and this is hard to do on camera, so I'm gonna have to tip it back to myself here. I think I have a few too many in there. But I just grab a few shims. And the shims go right up front here. There is a place for your pinning tweezers, and still a spot for these additional tweezers that I use right here in the back. And that holds all the tools. Now, the only tool I haven't put in here is the gut wrench. However, if I were to put the gut wrench across the back like I did, it would be unnecessarily long. So what I decided to do was just take it vertical. So there's a slot right above all the followers, and the Sparrow's gut wrench fits perfect in there. So again, just like the big one, you have everything you need at your disposal in this nice small form factor that can be held right off to the side of your lock lab, and you're all set to go. You pick your lock, you reach over, you grab your gutting station, and everything you need to go is right here. Just like before, it's super easy to take the gut wrench in and out because it's right there. It's visible above everything else, and everything's a nice, convenient package if you are looking for something smaller. And again, that is $14.99. Another huge comment I got about when I first released the gut mat was, hey, I don't have the Sparrows mini mats, but I like this form factor. Could you build it with the pinning tray already built into the gutting station? So to accommodate those folks, I designed this. This is exactly the same form factor. Everything's the same as the large. It's got the place for the gut wrench in the back. It's got the 4 followers, place for shims, 2 tweezers, the auxiliary port. The difference is it has a 7-slot pinning tray. It's got a place to hold your cylinders up front. So put your lock in like that, hold your cylinder, and it's got a auxiliary, just a little tray to put springs in or anything else you might need to put in circlips while you're gutting a lock. So this is exactly the same as the mini mat, or excuse me, yeah, as the large mini mat gutting station. This is also $19.99, and again, available in any color you'd like to have it in. And for those of you who like the small form factor but just want the pinning tray built in, this is the gutting station small that has the pinning trays built into it. Again, it's exactly the same, it just only has the pinning trays. It doesn't have a place for your cylinder and the extra tray area, but it's got 7 pins in it, and it's the same as this guy. It is a little bit wider just to accommodate the pinning tray that I designed into it, but otherwise it's nearly identical, same slots across the top, but for sake of knowing the difference, that's about how much wider it is, just a very small amount. Okay, so the next product I'm going to talk about is something else I released in the past that wasn't for sale but is now, and that is the bump hammer. So the bump hammer I originally created was just all one solid piece. It does have some, based on how I did the infill, there's some flex on this bump hammer, so you can see it's just a very small amount of flex, which is good, so when you're hitting it, it's not going to shatter and snap because it's got just enough flex in it that it's not going to snap. The difference on this compared to what I did on my original design is it's now got a replaceable hammer face. So if I take this off, I can unscrew it right here. And here is the face. It's threaded right here, and then it's got the threads to receive it built into the hammer. The nice thing about this is over time, when you're hitting a metal key, the plastic will ding up. It'll have little dents in it, and that really won't affect it that much. There's only 2 times you have to worry about it. One, you're a very stubborn person and little dings, you can't stand those on the face of your hammer, so you get upset by it, so you want to replace it. Or 2, one of 2 things could happen. 1, you get a big enough divot, and when you hit it, it causes the hammerhead to kind of slip if you hit it in the same spot over and over again because it's going into that divot. Or 2, if you over tighten this, it is possible to snap this screw off. I mean, it is just 3D printed on. So when you put this in here, your urge is going to be to take this and crank it on as hard as you can. You don't need to do that. When you first get the hammer from me, here and here will have blue thread locker on it. You can't see it on this because it's blue, but it'll have some thread locker on it. And when you tighten it on, like just to that point, if you take it and just give it another slight turn, that's tight enough now. If I didn't put the thread locker on, when you hammered over time, this would start loosening up, and you have to retighten it and hitting it and then retightening it. So I put the thread locker on to help that not happen, but your instinct is going to be to over crank this and over torque it, and you will snap it if you do that because there's going to be too much tension on the plastic. A note to make is that on this head, this is 100% infill. If you don't know what that means in 3D printing, a lot of times in 3D printing there's gaps, air gaps in things. For example, in this is not 100% infill. That's why it's able to have a little flex to it. This is 100% a solid piece of plastic, so it does give it a little more rigidity. So this is the full-size bump hammer. It works perfect for bumping keys. If you're someone who likes to bump keys a lot, when you purchase this, it is $9.99, but you do have the option to purchase additional faces. So by default, for the $9.99, you get 1 face and the hammer body. You do have the the ability to add additional heads during checkout. If you're going to be doing this a lot, you might need to replace your faces. So this is the bump hammer, and then I also created the small bump hammer. So it's little brother. It's a scale. Everything is to scale, so nothing's gotten shrunk or anything. It's just if you were to shrink this one down to scale, you end up with this. You can see that even the faces are a little bit smaller. The benefit of this is you can keep this in a kit. So if you have a small bag or something you want to put this in, this works perfectly. I mean, technically this would fit in your pocket. Put it in like this, it's not that thick. It would work to fit inside your pocket as well. And just like the large one, it also has a replaceable face. The screws are the same, they are interchangeable, but you wouldn't do that because this head is quite a bit smaller. But unlike the big hammer, which you would probably hold like this when you're hitting, if you try to grip this thing like this, you're going to either bang your knuckles and you're not going to get any leverage. So when I suggest holding this one, it's about 2 fingers in the front, your thumb in the back, and you put some rocking action into it like this, and it works perfectly. This does work just as well as this. It's just something that can fit into a smaller form factor, into like an EDC kit or a pouch you have in the car or truck, and you're set to go. It's just something small that can be concealable and can be carried with you. Probably not going to be in your pocket every day, obviously, but if you just want something smaller, it works exactly as well as this. Again, during checkout, you can choose to add additional faces. It comes with one, and its price is $7.99. So the large is $9.99, the small is $7.99. The next thing I have is a recently new design I just did. A good friend of mine, Rubber Band, sent me his A1 Shim Holder because I always wanted one, but I couldn't justify spending $25 on a small piece of metal that came with, I think, 25 or 50 shims. I already have a ton of shims, so I didn't need more shims. So if you're wondering what a shim holder is, let me go over shims first, just in case you know what that is. So this is a shim. It's a very small piece of metal, and I believe this is a Lab brand shim. It's super small, and it's to put on when you're gutting a lock if you're not sure what's up inside, what kind of pins you're dealing with. It helps you not completely brick a lock when you're gutting it. The problem with this is it's so thin, if you're holding it like this and it slips in your fingers, you can give yourself a pretty bad cut. It's like a pop can. I mean, it's like a metal paper cut. It's absolutely horrible. The corners are very sharp, so you're holding it. Now, don't get me wrong. Not everyone needs a shim holder. Not everyone cares. Some people can hold this and they have no problems. So the next thing I talk about, the shim holder, is not a necessity. It's just a nice thing to have, especially if you use shims a lot. Or after the first time you cut yourself, you might want one. So this is a shim, and this is the shim holder. It's very small. It's a tiny piece of plastic, which has a core and a shell. The shell, I'm not sure we're gonna be able to see this very well, but the shell does have a bunch of ribbing on it, and it's very small, but it does give just enough grip that it won't slip in your fingers. And the way you work this is you take the shim and you place it along the inside shaft like that, and you place it down into the shell like this, and then you pull the shaft, the inside core, tight, and now your shim is inside your shim holder. So no longer do you have to hold on to this piece of metal. You can just hold on to it by this piece of plastic. Again, this does a couple things for you. A, it gives you better motor control because you can grip this with all 3 fingers or more, whatever, and give nice grip on it. You have better control with it. It makes it a larger handle. And if you slip on this, you're not going to cut yourself. Or if you slip on this, you could easily cut yourself. Again, not a necessity. It's just a frivolous thing that if you absolutely want to have something like this, this is perfect. And instead of paying $25 for a small chunk of metal with some shims, if you already have shims, this is only $6.99. And again, you can get it in any color you want. This will work with either the Lab shims that I'm showing here or like the security tag inserts that you pull them out of and use those. The other cool thing about it is since the shell is rounded and the core is rounded, it keeps the arc that's on the shim. I know it's really hard to see on camera. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to show it to you, maybe if I do this. It keeps the arc that's on the shim at all times, so you don't get it flattened out over time. Again, that's the shim holder, and it's $6.99. And the last product that I have on my website, this is another product that if you follow my YouTube channel, you've seen me talk about before that I designed. I call this the double deadbolt holder. So it is specifically meant to hold a deadbolt in each end. And I bought this deadbolt, I believe at Menards. It's just a quick set deadbolt. And it was designed with a couple ideas in mind. A, I wanted to be able to hold this in hand. So this length and size, and I have smaller hands, this is perfect for holding it in a hand grip like this. So you can pick this lock in your hand instead of having to vise it up or put it in some specific holder. This isn't something that you're gonna swap in and out a lot. This isn't meant to be a quick change, put a different deadbolt, put a different deadbolt. This is kind of a practice aid that you can have available at all times, or for a challenge lock that you wanted to send off. You could use it for that as well. What I did is I bought this quick set deadbolt, and then I re-keyed this side. So these are actually two different locks that I get to challenge myself with. One's a little bit easier. This one has more security pins, so it's more difficult. And they're no longer keyed alike either. But there's no other parts you need. When you buy the deadbolt, it needs to be a double keyed deadbolt so you don't have a thumb turn on one side. And the length, the reason for the length is due to the fact that when you buy this deadbolt, it comes with these two screws. And these screws go through this deadbolt, through the door, and screw into the back of the other side of the deadbolt, and that's how it secures itself in the door. Well, this works exactly the same way. These screws secure the other side of the deadbolt and pinch it between this, and that's how they stay in place. There are a few pieces of support within the shell that stop this deadbolt from rotating inside there, so you don't have to worry about it spinning around. It's stuck in this position. And when you do buy it, the deadbolts aren't included. It is just, sorry, let me say that again. The deadbolts are not included. It's just the shell for you to put your own deadbolts in. It was specifically made for Quickset, but it should work for other deadbolts as well. Obviously, it's not going to work for ones that already come like this. It's not meant to fit ones like this. The important part for the type of deadbolt that can hold it is you're going to need a double-ended one. You're probably going to need to buy them in a set so that the screws can go through, because they need to screw into the back of each other. So that's the kind of deadbolt that it does support. The nice thing about this shape also is, like I said, it can be held in the hand, but because the sides are flat, if you're like me and like to pick with a vise, you can do that. So this will fit right into your vise. You can tighten it up and you're all set to go. So it'll hold nicely inside a vise as well with this shape without it rotating or spinning. It's locked in there very nicely. So those are all the products that I currently have available for sale on the site. I do have some more designs that I already have created and more I'm working on. But before I launch them on the site, I wanted to make sure that this was a good idea and that there would be some success with this, to see if this is something that the Locksport community wants and could get behind. And if it seems to take off, then I'll definitely be adding more products to the site. And before I go, I wanted to talk about one other thing. I had a person reach out to me on Reddit after I posted this on Reddit. The Reddit username is Thanos the Dwarf. And they asked if I could build something very specific for them. And I said, sure, let's talk about what you're looking for. And they said that they really liked the large lockpick stand. And they really liked the gutting station with the pins, the tray already built in. But what they wanted was a mix of both. They wanted one thing that had all this. And it took me a minute to wrap my mind around this, because I'm like, that's going to be huge. What are you looking for? And after some back and forth and some drawings and some mock-ups, I think we settled on specifically what it was they were looking for. I didn't know what to call this, so I came up with a code name. And the code name for this product is called the Abomination. So I present to you codename Abomination. This thing is big. So what it is it's the large lockpick stand with 4 of the pick holders removed on the front. And in place of that, we have the gutting station's back right here, placed in right here. So it holds everything that the gutting station holds except for the gut wrench, which I'll talk about in a second. And then the front of it is pretty much the large gutting station with the pitting trays built in. So we have the 7 pitting trays, we have the cylinder holder and this extra little slot here. But as I stated, it doesn't have a place for the gut wrench because there wasn't a good place to put it, because reaching over the back of this to try to get the gut wrench didn't make sense. But what we decided was he didn't need that, because instead of doing it that way, what he is able to do is just use one of these large slots on the back here, and see if I can find my gut wrench here and I'll show you. So the gut wrench can just use one of these large pick slots like that to hold his gut wrench, and he's set to go if he so uses to use that. I don't know if he has a gut wrench or not, but that could be a place to hold the gut wrench. And then he requested that there was these 6 additional little wells here, and I wasn't sure what he needed that for, so I asked. And he likes to make a lot of challenge locks, so this was going to be to hold the 6 most common security pins, is I believe what he said, so that he'll always just have this full of security pins. So as he's building a new lock, he can just reach over with a pair of tweezers, grab the pin he wants, and put it in. So it's a quick gutting station for him. It's a quick challenge lock builder, but it also holds his lock picks as well. So I asked him if he had a YouTube channel. He says he does. It's relatively new. He says he doesn't have any subscribers. I believe his YouTube username is Paddy Lock. It's Paddy Lock. And like I said, he's a new channel, but I will be shipping this out to him tomorrow. So he should have that in a couple days. And then I'm pretty sure if you want to see this in use, you'll be able to see it on his YouTube channel, which I encourage you to check out. And again, this was a 100% commissioned piece. It's not something I was originally planning on selling. It will not be going on the site anytime soon. It is more expensive. It's the most expensive thing I've ever created, just due to the fact of how much filament and how much time this takes. This takes over, almost a half a spool of filament. Not quite, more like a third, but it takes a lot of filament and it takes a very long time to print. However, if this is something you're interested in, you can definitely reach out to me on the contact form on 3dlocksport.com. Say, hey, I'm interested in that Abomination thing you were talking about in your video, and I'd be happy to get you a price for it if this is something. Otherwise, this might just be the first time and the last time I ever print this. Like I said, it was a commission for someone. They didn't specifically, they wanted the best of both worlds into one spot, and maybe this will interest someone else, maybe it won't, I don't know. But if you're interested, make sure you reach out and let me know. And that's all I have for you today. That is all the products on the site. If you'd like to check them out yourself, you can go to www.3dlocksport.com. You'll see the products on there. You can check out online. We accept PayPal. You can either pay with your PayPal account or a credit card through PayPal, either way. And hopefully you'll find something you like. And even if you don't, I would be very grateful if you shared it with friends who you think might interest them. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to me through the contact form on the website or info@3dlocksport.com. And that's it. Have a great day.